So today's costume designer has worked on projects such as Sam Mendes's James Bond film Spectre, Get the Gringo, starring Mel Gibson, Life of Crime with Jennifer Aniston, Roma, Vienna and the Phantoms with Dakota Fanning. Her work spans countries, time periods, and thousands of background extras to costume. Her most recent project is the feature film Pedro Paramo, which is streaming on Netflix. Today's designer, we're going to welcome to the show, Anna Terrazas. Hey, Anna.
Hi, it is a pleasure to be here with you and everybody, and I'm very excited to have a nice conversation.
Thank you. We're so glad that you're here today. Now, I know you have shared a little bit about your growing up previously on other interviews you've done. However, I also like having that for my own documentation too. So would you mind sharing with us, what did your parents or guardians do for a living, and what were you like as a kid?
So I was born in Mexico in a tiny town, which is like an hour away from Mexico City. And it's in the countryside. So it's like surrounded by like mountains and rivers. And my parents moved there because my father, he's an artist. Now he's more an artist. He's older now. My mom, she's a writer. And before I was born, they went to Africa because my father had a project there in Tanzania. And when they got back to Mexico City, they kind of realized they didn't want to be in the city itself. So they found this tiny town that kind of simulated a little bit of what they lived in Africa. So we grew up there, my siblings and myself, and it was the best childhood that I think any kid can have, because it was like surrounded by nature and we were really free. That nowadays is a very different situation, I think, all over the world.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was always surrounded by art because of my father's what they do. My father and my mom, at home, there was always like different writers coming for the weekend, for lunches, or we were going always to exhibits. We didn't have TV. So we couldn't watch anything because we were so far away that this signal didn't arrive there. So we were like basically always watching films, and not necessarily just kids films. It was all different type of films. So I kind of feel that I got unconscious in the film industry because of that. But that being said, then I moved to Mexico City to do high school. And when I graduated, I was in between, like I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do. It was like something between textiles or fashion or something like that. So then I went to London and I got really lucky because I did sort of like a year of foundation in Central St. Martin's that can give you like a lot of different tools to see which way you want to go. And then I got accepted there for fashion and textiles. But at that time, I was just like in fashion and I didn't see the textile part in my life, which I regretted, have to say. And then I also applied at the same time to Parsons in New York. I got accepted in New York, so I transferred from London to New York because it was just fashion. And so I did my entire career in New York, and then I start designing for Bill Blass. And then I realized that what I wanted to do, it wasn't really related to the fashion world. Like I wasn't really being fulfilled. And so I kind of took a break, came back to Mexico for like a couple of months just to kind of reorganize my life. Mm. And I got invited to help a costume designer that she was doing the play Cabaret in Mexico. So I met with her and I started assisting her. And then the first thing that happened is like when I read the script of the play, I was like, oh my God, this is what I want to do. Like that's when it really hit me how I wanted to like translate clothing, let's call it, or fashion into this, into reading kind of like a character and then start designing from there, rather than going into the fashion and create that whole world. So I start assisting her, and at the end, we kind of co-designed the play, which was really amazing. They did it again with different actresses. Actually, one of the actresses of Pedro Paramo was in it, but at that time it was just Mexican actors. It was in the Teatro Insurgentes, which is like the big theater place here. I was working on that, I met different type of people, actresses, and then I met this director. Basically, he did a lot of commercials, and he was like, we should work together, And I was like, yeah, but I've never done a commercial in my life. And he's like, it doesn't matter. So I started working with him in commercials for many years, all publicity. And then I kept doing kind of theater at the same time, because I was like, this is what I really love. And the commercials was like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like getting into the film industry, or like TV industry more than film, and get to know more people. And then it was just little by little, they called me to do a film with Gael Garcia Bernal, the Mexican actor. We sort of grew up together, so we're really good friends. And we have tried to maintain our careers together in a way. And then from that, kind of like, it just started like evolving by itself. They call me for one film and then another. And then I decided to move back to New York and then LA. So kind of like, it was just a little bit go with the flow. But one of the main things that I was really happy to find is like, for me, kind of when I read a script is when the magic happens. It's like either you fall in love with the script and the characters, and you start imagining things. And yeah, I'm really grateful that I came to Mexico and somebody showed me a script, because I didn't study any costume before.
That's amazing. When you left New York the first time and kind of needed that little break, what was it that kind of told your soul, told your spirit, told your person that you needed to step away for a little bit? Like, how do you know to listen to that?
I guess it was also two things. One, I left home when I was 17, but I left home to London. It's not like, okay, around the corner, I can come back home anytime. And I guess that helped me a lot, just to be by myself. But also, like, New York, don't get me wrong, is my favorite city, but at the same time is really overwhelming at some point. And when we graduated from Parsons, I wasn't really sure that I wanted to belong into the fashion industry, because it is a completely different world from when are you studying that you're working, like how everything works in that industry. And I think that really shocked me, and it didn't go with my personality at all. Like, I was just not understanding. I couldn't, for me, it was much more important to talk to somebody and really design and talk about the color palette that we're doing, rather than, okay, this is the trend right now, this is what we have to do. Like, it just felt like I was a machine, kind of. And yeah, I just couldn't keep up with that. And I was just getting sadder and sadder, and I wasn't enjoying being a designer anymore. I was actually about to quit the whole design world and just go more into the textiles and a different road. And that's why I decided that I needed a break, and yeah, to come back home as well, just to like settle down and rethink things, because yeah, I mean, it's New York and the fashion industry. I think like that's what took me out a tiny bit.
Well, that makes sense. Well, so when you had your little respite moving back to Mexico for a little bit, and you were starting to work on commercials and theatrical productions, from there, what project took you more down like the film industry route?
My brother, he's a writer as well, for film, and they started a company together here in Mexico that it's called Canana. and he started with Gael and Diego. And this was back in the days, and once they start doing like the films and I just started going into sets and everything, that's when I was like, I really want to do this film. When we did Deficit, that was my first film. Like now that I look back at it, I'm like, oh my God, what was that? You know what I mean? But it's a learning process, and I think we were all learning, and it helped me a lot just to understand how I was gonna like sort of, yeah, like every project I was gonna get better or understand better what I wanted to do. So I think for me, it's every project was different, but I guess it was when Ganan started and they started inviting me to be part of it and to be sort of creative. What are we going to do next? That's when, yeah, I felt more in love with the film industry. I just want to say to you one thing from when I came back to Mexico from New York. And to people that are listening, sometimes people have a really hard time, and you don't know what's happening to you. And it's called depression, or it's called overwhelming, or it's just, you need to listen to yourself. And sometimes it's really hard to ask for help, and I was very lucky that I was able to ask for help, and to come back to my parents and to my friends and to say, hey, I am in this situation, and it was by love and by everything that I got back up and into this world. So
Oh,
just,
that's so good. No, I really appreciate you highlighting that in particular. Yeah, I was actually reading about, since you opened the door, I'm going to share about a German social scientist in the 70s, Elizabeth, I can't remember her last name right now. And she, in studying what happened like in Berlin in the 30s and 40s to the Jewish people, she came up with a phrase called the spiral of silence. And that, like, if you're silent about something, that the cost of that silence goes up. And then if you continue to be silent, then the price goes up, to where then it's like, well, if you say something at this point, now the price is death, kind of thing. And I was thinking to myself when I was reading that, I was like, man, that's so much like with any kind of mental health or, anxiety, depression, or whatever, is like, if you're going to be silent and not come against that, not speak truth, but like accept the lies that you're probably believing, the anxiety that you're believing and buying into, like that price goes up. Does that make sense? Like it's like becomes harder to get out of.
harder, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
And
No, and it just like keeps building and building, and it's like building a house. Do you know what I mean? You need to build in something that it's solid, and that you can not just put more and more and more, because at some point it's just going to fall apart.
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, and that happens every time. I mean, I have to say, for instance, in my work now, every film is different. I mean, working costumes in film is all about a team. You know what I mean? And if you don't have a team and you're not part of that game and part of and I'm meaning the creative team, your self team. So all that, like, if you're not like strong and be able to share and to open and to be true to what's happening, because sometimes there's films or directors or art directors or just your own team that can be really mean, and can be
Yeah.
really harsh to somebody. And if that happens, you need to know how to always stand up for yourself and to be, yeah. Does it make sense what I'm saying? Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Okay.
it's good. It's
Yeah.
really good. Thank you so much for sharing that, being vulnerable and willing to share that, because I think it's an important thing to listen to and a lesson to share.
Yeah. And also because the film industry is like, you always have to be there and ready to do the next and the next and the next. We're always behind. There's never enough time. We were late like 3 weeks ago,
Yeah.
and everything is needed by today. Eh, but it's just like, yes, everything is happening. You just need to know how to put yourself, and how every day I meditate. Every day I do a little bit of exercise before going to work, because if not, if I don't know what can happen, and it's like a way of just letting things out, and then just be able to concentrate at work and be able to receive, and then to share and to everything. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And you have a kid, so what was it, or what is it? What has it been like, and what is it like currently to have a family doing what you do?
That's an amazing question, because when I was pregnant in New York doing the Deuce, the second season, and then I came back to Mexico to give birth to my kid. Everybody in New York was amazing with me and my pregnancy. And since I got back into work, I have always have taken my kid with me,
Mhm.
which not a lot of people understand, and I would say here more men, because it's an industry that most of the time are male director, male DP, male production designer, and a woman costume designer, and I don't think they know what entails to be a mom and to be at work. And for example, in Bardo, um, it was really hard for me, even though it was in Mexico. Um, I don't have all the time a nanny, and sometimes we had to like stay to watch certain films that Alejandro wanted us to see with him in order to get inspired for whatever shot we needed to do. But that was like at 9 p.m. I was like, guys, I can't. Like all of you can't. I can't, or like even when we were doing the first fittings and camera and all that, everything was late. I was ready since 7 a.m. It was already 6, and I had to go to the producer and say, I'm so sorry. My team is there. They know what they're doing, but I have to go. And they're like, but you can't. I was like, yes, I can. I'm leaving. Like I just can't. And right now, a really good friend, amazing production designer, had an experience because he took his 2 kids with him to London, and he almost he had a crisis of like, how the hell do you do it? I'm like, now you understand, my friend. It's not that easy. But I travel with my kid. It is hard as well because we're Mexicans to bring. I mean, in order to work, I need to have a nanny. In instance, for New York, I couldn't find the visa for my nanny because it's really complicated to get a visa for whatever social class person it is in Mexico to get the visa for the US. And I ended up with an au pair that kind of helped me. And now I went to New Mexico to do another film to Albuquerque, and I bring the entire thing. I find a school for my kid. I
Oh, wow.
get him out of school because he needs to continue, and it has been amazing the way he has just kind of just be there with me and support me and go to another adventure, and also it has helped him a lot, to be a lot more social. And it is super hard, but I really invite everybody to always invite them to your environment, to see what you do, to be part of it, because if you want to keep them like at home because they have to do this, yes, they have to, and it's okay, but it's also okay that they can see that you're vulnerable, that you're working, that you're this, you're not just a mom, you're also a working woman.
Yeah.
And for me, that's the most important thing that I'm giving to my child.
Yeah, that's so great. We moved to homeschooling our kids for that very reason, just to have them be able to see what we do. Like, like come along with us and be part so far. And I don't think I'll ever change this statement, but so far I'm like, I don't regret a moment with my kids. There's not going to be a time where I get to a certain age and I'm like, wow, I wish I had had less time with my children. Like,
No,
never going to
no.
feel that way.
No, even though sometimes when we're shooting, like when we did Pedro Paramo, we're shooting in San Luis Potosí. And it's it's not far away, but it's like, yeah, 6 hours, 7 hours, It's not the best part of the world, no. And where we were shooting worse because it was a hotel and then 2 hours to travel to every location. So it wasn't the best environment for my kid, but I would still bring him, let's say, a week, and then you go back a week to Mexico to school with your grandma, and everybody was at my house, but I knew that he was okay. And every time that he would come back to school, he was like, but wait, when I'm going to come back? Like he was still doing his things from school at work. It's not like he's just running around like a crazy kid, but I don't know. He's learning a lot through that, I feel. And I mean, every kid is different. Every family is different. And yeah, here we are.
That's great. So you've talked to us a little bit about moving in this path of costume design. And I want to ask in particular, especially because it's on your website and it's so fascinating to me. The James Bond franchise is a great franchise. And so first of all, before I ask you something specific that's on your site, how did you get attached to working with, do you pronounce her name Jani Tamim?
Jani Tamim.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she was the head costume designer on Spectre, and you were her assistant costume designer, correct?
Well, on the IMDb, you'll find me as a supervisor, which I was never a supervisor. I have never supervised in my life, but that's what they wrote down. They contact me because they had, that James Bond always goes to every city and to all their different shots or whatever they have to do. So this one was the day of the death, and they contact me to see if I could assist Jani in that matter here in Mexico. It was just that part, which is basically, I don't know, like 10 minutes scene or something less. So I had an interview with her, and then she sent me the ideas that she wanted. And then within that, because we start designing the whole thing. I had a team of a lot of people. It was like more like 50 something, because we did everything, all the masks, all the everything that you see there. Because in Mexico, that's one of the things that they were asking a lot is like, so Day of the Dead, what's the parade? And we're like, there's no parade in Mexico for Day of the Dead. That doesn't exist. In Mexico, what it existed, it was going to the cemetery to visit the dead and to see all the ofrendas, which I don't know how to say in English, but the ofrendas is what you put in your house or in different museums, and it's full of flowers and the skulls and the photographs, and you make food, and it's like for your dead people, whatever, to come and visit you and eat and enjoy, and family comes and goes. That's what normally we do. So when James Bond came with this idea, was we had to do an entire crazy parade and version of all the ideas. I have to travel to London by myself with like 20 huge boxes of different head pieces that we have done, all the suits that we're making to show to Jani and Sam to say, okay, is this what you want? Less, more? So yeah, we were an amazing team. We had an entire stage because we were like, I don't even remember, like 15 seamstress and around like 10 tailors and a lot of people from the arts, because we painted every suit. There's a scene of the dresses of La Catrina, which are like the brides that you see them walking. Because those dresses, they're actually in the archive in London, because we did them. They're 5 different or 4 different, I can't remember. One was just made out of straws. One was made out of spoons and plates and cups, and then the other one was just made out of paper, and the other one was made out of like sugar and paper. So all this were really was handmade, built here. And it was really funny because the other day, one of the moms from Tiago's school are like, can I ask you a question? I see your name in the James Bond film. Because of that, they start doing the Mexican parade now. I'm like, yes, they did.
Are you
So
serious?
a year after the film came out, the Mexican government, because we kept everything in a storage till, I mean, as we always do,
Sure.
till the film comes out. So a year after, the production company that did the film and the government of Mexico, they decided that they were going to do the parade, the Day of the Death parade, same as James Bond. So they called us to donate all the costumes that we have done for that parade. And that's how that parade started. And now we just had it last weekend.
Oh my goodness. Your
It
name's
didn't
gonna be in
exist yet.
history books.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. Well, I'm so
Yeah.
glad I asked about this then because I've not heard that story. That is amazing. So,
Yeah.
okay, so I heard that there was a roughly 1,500 background extras in this scene that you're talking about, and that you guys were able to get them all in costume, hair, and makeup in 75 minutes?
Yep.
Tell me how this well-oiled machine worked. What was that
I
process
have,
like?
okay, so this is one of the best things that I took. I mean, a lot of things, but from James Bond, Kenny, which was the supervisor of Jenny in London, the
Okay.
most amazing man that has done every film and then knows how to do this in an hour. So when he arrived, I was really stressed out because I was like, wait a second, like every dress, just to get into the dress, it takes a while, or like the suit or whatever you were putting, and then plus makeup, plus the headpiece, plus whatever, all the props that they had to carry. And Kenny was like, don't worry, I'll take care of it. So we learn a lot because now we always do it the Kenny way because it is the best, most amazing way. He designed this racks, basically, that it's a rack, like normal rack, but it's that has like where to seat, like just a piece of wood, where
Okay.
to seat, and then where to hang your things. So in every aisle, he has different aisles, and he marks them A, B, C, D, E, F, depending how many people you have to work dress. In every aisle, there's five people. Like in each rack, there's just like five, let's say, characters dressing at the same time. So you have them marked A and by number. So you're number 1, 2, 3. So from 1 to 20, go to aisle A. From 20 to 30, go to aisle B. From da 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 da, like that. And in each aisle, you have a customer or two customers helping people. They
Are the
also
no
have
sorry to interrupt, but just when you're given this number, is this based on a size or is this based on like alphabetical last name or the first come, first
alphabetical
serve?
last name. It was in James Bond. So,
Okay.
and it's just like all women, all men.
Okay.
Kids, depending the age, will go with their moms or will go apart in another tent. So
Okay.
there's like thousands of tents of all this happening at the same time. So they will come, tell you your number, and say, okay, go to aisle A. Before that, when they did the fitting, we explained to them what they have to do and how they need to dress and undress. So when they arrive, there's a bag as well. They're hanging with their clothes and another bag in order for them to put their belongings. So they undress, they put their belongings in the bag, close the bag. Everything is attached with the same number. The bag has the number that you were given. So they arrive, they undress, they get dressed, bam, 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 out, go to makeup. So it's like a labyrinth. You go to makeup, you go to props, you go out to the car or to whatever, to the set. And like that. And it just like, it keeps going, like nonstop. It's a madness, but it works so beautifully and so fast, which is like unbelievable. Nobody could believe it. They were like, they're already? They're like, yeah. And with makeup, I mean, the makeup that they did, it was amazing. There were so many people that came from Europe and then some Mexicans as well. So it was a fantastic team.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. That is so
Mm.
cool. Okay, so your feature film that is currently out is on Netflix. It's called Paramo. Tell us a little bit about this film.
It
Spoil.
just came out on Netflix. Everybody can see it now.
Yes.
Today, the
Yep.
day. No, so Pedro Paramo is based on a novel, one of the most well-known novels in Mexico. And it's written by Juan Rulfo. We all read it when we were in school, teenagers. I have to say, I had to read it a couple times. It's a complicated uh, novel. Because they're all dead, but they're not dead. It's very related to Mexican culture, and I feel that everybody that has read the book has their own version of Pedro Paramo, like they imagine Pedro Paramo in a way. It's so when this film, the script got to me actually like 15 years ago. Mateo Gil, which is the same writer of the script that we did, he was going to direct the film 15 years ago.
Oh,
And because of whatever happens in the world and the stars didn't align, we couldn't do it. So now when they offer it to Rodrigo Prieto, which have to say the best, most amazing human ever in the world to be. O sea, I have no other words for him, the best. It was beautiful, because he had his own version of Pedro Paramo. I had my own version of Pedro Paramo. Carlos Jackson, Eugenio Caballero, the production designers also have their own version. We were lucky that we were able to have like a soft prep to start designing our ideas, then to show to Rodrigo. So it's a film, a novel that, as I said, but I don't want to say that much because I'm going to spoil it for you. Um, so it's basically, I mean, it takes place at the end of the 19th century, and so it's like pre-revolution, post-revolution, because Juan Preciado comes to Comala to look for his father. His father was the big cacique of that place, meaning he was the owner of all the lands in that place. And he was, pues sí, say like a macho man that he lost his love when he was a kid. The girl that he was in love with leaves town and his heart starts to dry. And he's still a kid. He grows up. So it's a lot of every part of the film we had to do so like research to understand first of all the time, second of all like the social classes, what we really wanted to say of each character that is in the film. Eh, it's really funny. I was telling to Daria that after kind of like doing the film, and I already seen it like 3 times or something. It's really amazing because he's always surrounded by women, always. It's like woman that takes care of the house, the cookers, the this, that. Obviously, there's men that are working in the haciendas, but at the end, the film it's sustained by women. And none of these women have any kids, but at the end they all look like mothers. None of them have given any birth. So Pedro Paramo has kids all over town with every woman. So they're all sons of Pedro Paramo, and he just recognizes one of him, one of the kids that is exactly the same as him, in terms of his attitude and all that. So for us, but it was a beautiful project because we got to, first of all, do an amazing research of the period. We have to dive in lots of different photographers. Casasola is one of the biggest one that we just took a lot of information from there, a lot of reading as well. As I say to a lot of people, there's a lot in the internet, which is amazing, but it's also sometimes you need to be careful because sometimes they get wrong the times or is not correct, like period time. So between the research that two other collaborators did with me, Hannah Shea and Claudia, we were working nonstop, and most of this research and the photos that you'll find of the time, they're black and white. And we needed to create a color palette because this film, when you read Pedro Paramo, you maybe can imagine black and white when you think of a film. And there's already been 2 films of Pedro Paramo, and they're black and white. And so it was a beautiful process of, first of all, understanding how people used to dress at the time, how we were going to be as accurate as possible to get our background and our main characters to dress exactly the same, because a lot of those things, they don't make them anymore. So we had to dive into the entire Mexican Republic to work with different artisans. And when I mean artisans, it's like the ones that are like weaving steel to do the rebozos, the sandals, the huaraches, the hats. Because of that time, the hats was the most important thing. They don't make the hats like that anymore. So every piece of clothing that you see in the film, it's all designed and all handmade. Nothing is like nada existed. Absolutely nothing. We created all. And we created all with the most amazing creative team of all these artisans that were willing to learn how things were made in that time, because they have learned from their parents and their parents and their parents. And for instance, I'm just going to tell you a story. The rebozo, which is a shawl, the typical Mexican shawl that you will see in every woman at the market. Now, the length of it could be from 1 meter to already long 180 meters. Back in the day, it used to be 3 meters long.
Oh, wow.
And now nobody makes them anymore because, first of all, they use it for a different purpose. For the artisan to make it, it takes a lot of time, and they don't sell them anymore. Like, people don't buy it. So they're wasting a lot of things. So that kind of tradition got lost. So we convince different artisans to go back and remake them of 3 meters long for the film.
Is this woven like on a loom or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it takes a lot of time. I mean, and in the film, as I said, that they're all dead, So one thing that we wanted to also show that is not up in your nose, it's something that with Rodrigo, we came up with this idea that there's always a hint in their costume of how they died, and the colors of them as well, from the beginning of the film to the end, it changes. Even though they keep sort of the same color palette. And this, what I'm trying to say is like the rebozo that we did, for example, for Damiana, and the entire design of Damiana, which is a caretaker of Pedro Paramo, the woman that's in the house. She starts in very light, let's say, peach colors with like a rebozo with big stripes and all light colors. And as the film starts, Pedro Paramo actually starts to let the town to die. Her color starts changing and she goes into rusty colors. And then one of the rebozos at the end, it goes into dark to light to dark. You know what I mean? So it's a beautiful, like, you have to see the film in terms of understand the color, because I think color in particular in this film, it means a lot. Like,
it's so symbolic.
Yeah, the entire film is designed in sort of like 2 stages, which is like when Pedro was a kid and he was a happy kid, everything was more humid and green and alive. And as he starts getting older, everything gets rustier and he lets his town to die. And then people, you will see them also how the colors change. So we had to like find fabrics to do the 2 stages, even though it was like the same people that you will see background wise, you will never realize that it's like we're using the same one to cross in the back. But we would have to build, we built so many different skirts and costumes. It was like 2000, or just to be able to make these changes. Yeah, so it was a beautiful, process of collaboration. And as I said at the beginning, without a team, you can't do this. It's like everybody, yes, you're the head, but I do feel as a head, you always need to open your heart and your ideas to your entire team, and then to collaborate with everybody that is surrounding you. We were very lucky to have Rodrigo and Carlos Jacques and Eugenio Caballero, which are the most amazing people, and Nico Aguilera as well, that does the DP with Rodrigo.
If someone were to not know that you do the symbolism in the costume of how the character died, if they go back and watch it again now knowing this, do you think that they could tell upon a second viewing, like those details?
Maybe, but not in Damiana, because that is really, really like light, in Eduviges, which is the woman that is the owner of the main like cantina of the town. Mm-hmm. She actually, the film starts with her with a blouse and it's embroidered. And a lot of people have asked me like, oh my God, that embroider is amazing. It's just like attracts the eye for some reason. And that means in the film, there's a line, because she dies, and then the sister goes to the priest and says, like, my sister, she died drowning in her own blood. Mm-hmm. So we kind of understand, because it's never explained in the film, we decided that she was sort of committed suicide, and it's the blood that it was dripping. And it was, so that's like the embroidery that it's in her blouse. Wow. So it's like those details. Damiana always in her blouse has a little bit more dark spot in the stomach because she gets killed there. So it's like those tiny things that I think it also helps a lot to the actress or actor, to enter their character. I think this was it was an amazing process with them, because again, everybody has the novel in their head, but they couldn't imagine how they were going to be dressed. And as soon as we were seeing like the fabrics and the colors, and we were dyeing also with natural dyes, and every actress in the film wants their I really need it like with me. I cried when the film finished, and one of the actresses told me, she's like, I had to cry and to say goodbye to my costume because it really helped me to get into this character.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. So is there something you have learned in the past 12 months? Since we're always constantly learning, what is something that you'd like to share that you've learned? And it can be costume related or just life related, or something about yourself or anything.
I have learned that every single day is different. In that day, you are going to find beautiful things, awful things, or nothing. But I do feel every day I try to learn something about whatever it is, the minimal thing, and it just had helped me a lot to understand today, and that is giving me also tools to continue to be as a human, as a woman, as a designer, as a mom, as a partner. It just helps every day to understand that we're not alone in this world, that you go out there and there's so many things happening, and you need to understand that, well, maybe that person didn't have a good morning, and it's just like, and it's not always as perfect, you just have to be like, okay, I just need to learn, take, and that for me, it's life. And I do feel I've been taking that lesson with me since yeah, I think like it's been like 2 years that I've just been like diving into that, more than 12 months of being more conscious of your surroundings and what you have to do every day.
Oh, that's good. For you, how do you measure success? Or what is success for you?
I think success is when you feel yourself accomplished. Like I don't feel that success is comes from the others. It comes from you, and this being, say, for me, I'm very hard with myself, and it's good and it's bad. It's really tough sometimes, because you want to be possessor, the perfect mom and the perfect designer and the perfect friend and you can't. But I do feel like one thing, when you accomplish and you see it and you feel in your heart and in your soul that it's full and it makes you smile, makes you good, that's success for me. Like, then the others can say whatever they need to say, and I'm here to listen, good and bad. But I do feel it comes from us,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I have a few rapid fire questions. Is there a movie you could watch over and over again?
It's not really. I like to. Oh, so now that I'm like, you know what I
Girl,
watch over?
one time is
Chaplin.
enough.
No, but Chaplin for me, Buster Keaton, like that gives me joy. Like
Yeah.
I can go back and rewatch Chaplin all my life. Like that's something that gives me energy. And I will rewatch films because I'll be like, I need to watch that film again because of this reason, of that reason. But in order to give me joy, I think Chaplin.
Really? Yeah, are
Yeah.
those are Chaplin movies some of those first movies you said that you watched as a kid? Were those or no? Were those?
Some of them. Yeah, some of them. And then I started watching it by myself. And then today, even in the morning, I woke up and I was showing to my kid a mini trailer of Buster Keaton and he was dying laughing, So that for me is just like, I don't know, like that humor that, yeah. And
Yeah.
another thing that I think everybody should do, take the things with humor, is like, if you don't have a sense of humor, my friend, this life is going to be tough. You need to
That's
have a sense of humor.
that is good.
Yeah.
Is there a place that you have visited that you suggest others visit?
Um, yeah, many. But one of my favorite places in the world, and it's not just because I'm Mexican, but if you have a chance to ever go to Oaxaca, it is amazing. It is a beautiful city and it has cultural wise, food wise, people, everything. It's a beautiful city that everybody, I think, must go and see.
Wow. Nice. I love it. And then, is there a genre of film you hope to design for one day?
I had in my list, I had a superhero situation there and I already did it. So I did a checklist. I just finished an Amazon superhero film here in Mexico.
Nice. When is
Yeah.
that going to come out?
I don't know because we're still shooting. We have one
You
more
are.
week.
Oh, you do. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it just like got pushed because of whatever, it always gets like 2 more weeks. Yeah, I just designed the superheroes in that show. I didn't design anything else, just the superheroes. And it was amazing, just to uh, we have all seen superheroes and I've always been like, how the hell you do it, And I
Right.
have to say that we went to LA to certain costume houses that they do superheroes, and it was really disappointing. And the most beautiful thing about this is that I found that in my team, we have such an amazing, creative, beautiful team that we design everything here, and it's beautiful. Like really, really beautiful. Like all the Amazon people and MGM, they're like, so I'm really proud of the Mexican craft, I have to
That's
say.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's one of the
Because it's
beautiful things.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's what I was going to say. That's one of the beautiful things about costume design, and you were even mentioning it when you're talking about the film, Pedro, is that you're like, I don't know how they made that, but let's learn. And then you like, oh, well, okay, this is how, and you're like learn a new skill almost with every single project. And it's amazing.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you a story of a show that I did in Montreal. It's called Barskins, that came out in National Geographic. And when I arrived there, the writer invited me to design the show. And I have to say, it was a tough one, because who's this Mexican coming to design about our people, So they were really like off, like, okay. But at the end, we did an amazing team, and we had to start designing all the Iroquois. It was like the arrival of the French into Canada. And they were like, okay, there's this costume rental house that we can get everything from there. And I was like, no, 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 no. We're going to design everything. And they're like, are you crazy? And I was like, we're not just going to design everything. We're going to build everything, because nowadays there's so many ways of doing our craft in digital and all this world. It's taking over. But I do love to use my hands. And I do love to see that the hand of somebody was in that bag or in that shoe, or right now with Pedro Paramo, that everything was handmade. Well, let me tell you something. Barkskins was also all handmade. And we were making all the bags and the belts, and the details and the costumes were with beads, because that was the Iroquois, like all the research. And at the beginning, they were like, Anna, you're out of your mind. Like, this is just not going to happen. Like, we can do it like in this digital way, and you won't see. I was like, nope, it will show, And it was beautiful, because we were able to bring a lot of students from Montreal, the university, and costumes and fashion and everything, to be part of the process. So they will come. One of our team will tell them or show them how they can do the things. And everybody was building beautiful things. At the end, nobody wanted the film to be over, because they were so into just a workshop of coming and doing their own, And I think that was something that I wish it doesn't get lost, because, I mean, the world is moving into a new era, which is, I think it's also amazing. And I think we need to learn it and be able to use both, but never lose where we come from, and that we can do things with our hands and it will show differently,
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I'm gonna have to check that. You said that's on National Geographic?
Yeah. Barkskins.
Okay.
It's called.
I'm gonna check that out too. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I loved having you and hearing about
Thank
your
you.
life and your journey. And we look forward to also catching your future work. But for the last little tiny plug here, on Netflix streaming, we have Pedro Paramo, and I'm going to work on the lilting of it.
You can also read the book. There is already a translation in English, so you can get the book. Maybe see the film first, and then maybe after read the book.
I love it. I'm an avid reader, so I love reading. So
there you go.
Too.
So maybe read the book first. I don't know, whatever you want to
Hey,
do.
either way you slice it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Voice of Costume. Check out voiceofcostume.com to learn more, see upcoming guests, and be a part of our growing community.